The smell of gasoline fills the entire room. This is the story of the movement for the restoration of the Ten Commandments of God. It took place in Kanungu, Uganda in the year 2000. For decades, the world thought it was a mass suicide. But when detectives started digging into the ashes, they realized a terrifying truth. The followers didn't want to die. They were systematically slaughtered by the people they trusted their souls with. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk about the mass murder that happened in Uganda. The story is popularly known as the Kanungu Massacre that happened on the 17th of March in the year 2000. We are going to discuss how people were able to be manipulated and thousands of people fell for such tragedy. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
For me, I reached there when the fire was still on. Bodies piled up were still burning. And my assessment, the figures that were reported actually were not accurate. Because from the floor, bodies were piled up on one another.
To understand how hundreds of people ended in that church, we have to talk about two masterminds behind the nightmare. First, we have Credonia Mwerinde. In her community, she was known as a woman of, let's say, colorful reputation. She ran a local bar. She was known to be incredibly sharp, highly manipulative. Her ex-husband recorded saying she usually is overexcited whenever she makes money. Nothing made her so happy as much as she making money. People in the community commented on something really suspicious that they saw about her bar. People often recounted saying they would see her burning something suspicious behind her bar. Remember, Credonia really loved money, and her bar was one of the means she would use to find new victims, or let me say rich people. These rich people would often come drink in her bar and they will become her victims. The moment she saw that you have money, she steals from you and then discard your body. On one occasion, the people in the neighborhood confronted her and asked her what she was burning behind her bar. She claimed it was just raw meat that was rotting in her refrigerator. But people grew suspicious, and eventually people stopped coming to her bar. This made her lose a lot of money because lack of customers will result to low income, and this is something she did not want. Eventually, her bar collapsed and it forced her to close down that business. But after a series of personal tragedies, she claimed she went into a cave and had a vision. She claimed the Virgin Mary appeared to her and gave her a mission. The world is rotten and you need to save it, the angel Mary said. But Credonia knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed a reputable face. So what did she do? It was accounted for that Credonia went into hiding for over a year. But what people didn't know that she was really planning her comeback. And it's gonna be something that the world was not expecting. There entered a man called Kibwetere. Kibwetere was a wealthy and highly educated politician and a school administrator. He was a pillar of the community, but he was also deeply vulnerable, facing several mental health struggles and a crumbling career. When Credonia met Kibwetere, he had cheated on his wife, and it was said that his church had banished him. So, with a broken reputation, he was desperate to redeem himself. Credonia completely reprogrammed him. She convinced him that he was a chosen prophet. Credonia convinced Kibwetere that God had told her to live in his house, so he agreed. And the moment she moved in, there was doom. She said the angel Mary had told her that she was to live with Kibwetere alongside two of her followers.
So not just her, but other people have to be with her in his house.
Yes.
That's great.
Remember, Kibwetere was a married man who lived with his wife and children. So now Credonia would have to join the family. When she joined the family, she instructed Kibwetere not to have sex with his wife. He also enforced Kibwetere to start punishing his children whenever they did something wrong. This was something Kibwetere had never done before. He had never laid hands on his kids.
Insane.
Credonia didn't end there. She also convinced Kibwetere that God had told her through the angel Mary that he could have with her, and not only her, also with her two followers that came.
Oh, the woman wants a threesome. And she's blaming Mary for it. That is crazy.
Eventually, Kibwetere's wife got fed up, so she gathered with the community to sack Credonia out of the village. She believed that sacking Credonia will result her having a peaceful home. Fortunately for her, they were able to successfully drive Credonia out of the village. But just when she thought that everything is going to be okay, now she has her husband to herself, Kibwetere did something no one saw coming. He took his things out of his home and joined Credonia.
That is wild.
Yeah. That's crazy. Now, you might think, who would join this cult? But the cult actually looked incredibly strict and holy from the outside. They promised a return to pure biblical law. But once you were inside, it was psychological prison. Here are some of the rules they had to live by, and it gets dystopian real fast. The cult were required to be completely silent. Followers were banned from speaking. They had to use complex system of sign language. Why? Credonia had told them that the tongue was a tool of evil deed and that speaking would break the 10 commandments.
Hold on, wait, they don't speak?
No. You
Wait,
could
what?
only communicate with sign language. Credonia had made them believe that whenever they speak, they would maybe lie or say something they are not supposed to say. That will prevent them from achieving the 10 commandments.
Oh.
But the reality was that she was actually stopping them from conspiring or questioning her authority.
Oh.
So it was more of a strategy or a structure to prevent people from thinking and sharing ideas rather than fulfilling God's desire as she claimed.
Right.
The second rule she gave was that they should not use soap.
Huh?
Yes. Soap was banned. Credonia made them believe that it was earthly things. She also convinced them that during the holy days back in Jesus' time, they only washed themselves in rivers. So there was no use of soap or no need for soap.
I wonder how they smell.
Remember, Credonia was only using this strategy to prevent them from buying because she wanted them to bring all their savings to the temple.
This sounds like a movie than a real life story. That is crazy.
It was banned.
Excuse me? The same person that made somebody's husband have intercourse with three people,
Yes.
including her?
Even looking at the opposite sex was a sin. In fact, Credonia didn't just ban sex. She actually separated married couples. Men lived in a separate place while women lived and children lived separately. She prevented married couples from speaking to each other or getting intimate at all. She said this will prevent them from fulfilling the 10 commandments.
That is insane.
To join this cult, you had to sell everything you own. Land, cars, clothes, and hand over 100% of the cash directly to the church. She referenced this from Ananias and Sapphira, where they sold everything they had and did not give the entire money they made to the prophet. This resulted them dying. Therefore, to join the cult, you were supposed to give away everything.
Was it a cult or a church?
It was a church, but because of the rules that governs it, I think it doesn't qualify to be called a church. It now moves into the step of being called a cult.
Oh, okay.
For years, families lived in absolute silence, working themselves to the bone on cult farms, completely isolated from the outside world. And why did they do this? Because Credonia dropped a bomb on them. She told them that the world was going to end on December 1st, 1999. She told them that God had told her through the Virgin Mary that the world was about to end. And so everyone was supposed to prepare towards this. This made a lot of people join her cult. Also, I forgot to point out something. After Credonia was sacked outside the village where she used to practice her church with Kibwetere, she moved into her father's compound. Her father had acquired a very large piece of land, and Credonia had 3 brothers. It was said that her 3 brothers died in mysterious circumstances that led her to be the sole heir of that land.
That is crazy.
Now, when she became the heir, this is where she turned that land into her church. So she was hosting the entire church on her compound.
Leaders now want these 48 hectares of land to be turned into a tourist site.
We failed to buy it because we went there as a team to the land. We bargained with the owners of the land, but we failed to secure money to buy that land.
She also established a school, but the school was not really conforming to Uganda's educational system. So the school was eventually closed. It was more of like the school was a grooming for the younger kids to grow and continue this cult from generation to generation. It's December 31st, 1999. The Y2K panic is happening globally.
And extremists believe it will cause the collapse of modern civilization. We will all be affected.
But inside their Kanungu compound, hundreds of people are praying, waiting for the sky to open up and the apocalypse to begin. Midnight strikes and nothing happens. The birds are still chirping and the sun comes up, and it's January 1st, 2000.
People are still alive. We're still here. That is crazy.
I can only imagine their faces and how surprised they're gonna look. Naturally, the followers who are now completely broken and homeless start breaking their vows of silence. They were really angry because this time the villagers were thinking, if God is not coming, we might as well just move and go find something to do. Credonia, realizing she is about to face a massive revolt or great arrest, does what any classic cult leader does. She shifts the goalpost. She claims, "Oh, sorry, I misread the vision. The actual date is March 17th, 2000. So she gives them another date, saying this time around, that is the actual date that the apocalypse is gonna happen. But she knew she couldn't stall forever. She needed a permanent solution to her problem. The days leading up to March 17th were eerie. Credonia told them they were going to heaven on Friday. She ordered a massive feast, the slaughtered cattle, bought cases of Coca-Cola, and invited everyone to celebrate. She even encouraged her church members to invite their friends and family.
That day, many leaders were invited to attend a ceremony of opening a new church. And if people had really gone to attend to that function, it would be a different story in Kanungu. But I thank God, most leaders didn't take the invitation and that cult serious.
But behind the scenes, the leadership was preparing a slaughterhouse. They purchased massive quantities of sulfuric acid and jerrycans of gasoline. They systematically began boarding up the windows of the main church building from the inside. It was also said that the Credonia would take a bus to the nearest bus stop and watch to see which of her church members were leaving the town. If she would not see anybody that she's familiar with, she would just wish them a safe journey. She was making sure that nobody leaves the premises. It was also said that she told all other branches to close up and come meet them at the main venue.
Oh, she had branches.
Yes, she did.
Damn, okay.
On the morning of March 17th, over 500 men, women, and children dressed in their finest ceremonial robes walked into the church. Once they were all inside, the heavily wooden doors were locked from the outside. Iron bars were placed across them. Nails were driven into the frames. The followers were trapped in total darkness. According to witnesses nearby, there was a sudden sound.
ninyujuka ry'izuba bakarara bashemererwa bari kweshongora konka umukasheshe kashaha nk'itano twahurira akari bataka ngo ayi kunagire kuza kureba eseri nyabugoto nareba ecika cyamani cya braka kiri kutumuka higuru narebi batiryaragara umunda namayango abantu bafa basya.
Damn.
The building erupted into an inferno, so hot that the metal roof plate melted. The screams could be heard from miles away. By the time the locals and authorities reached the remote compound, it was too late. Over 530 people had perished in a matter of minutes.
Crazy works. Was she part of it?
No, Credonia was nowhere to be found. It was believed that he and other church elders had fled during this explosion.
Their relatives were murdered, and that government is going to do all it can to put the leaders of this cult to book. Otherwise, what other consolation can you give to a people when they lose their relatives?
It was also believed that she might have personally lit up the fire.
Damn.
Initially, the international media reported that this is a mass suicide. They thought, oh, another cult that wanted to die together. But then the Ugandan police started investigating the other properties owned by the cult across the country. Remember, I told you she had other branches. And what they found turned this into one of the most chilling serial murder investigation in history. Under floorboards of the cult houses, in the gardens, and deep inside the pit latrines, detectives began unearthing bodies. In one property, they found over 153 bodies. In another property, they found 81 bodies.
What?
Many of them had been poisoned and had stabbed wounds. Others were choked. A shocking number of them were children who had been strangled. It was said that Credonia would murder the people that wanted to speak or wanted to leave the church. She wanted absolute control. She would poison them, and if they don't die, she would personally strangle them or strike them with something to their head to make them die faster.
I'm thinking those are the people who probably tried to rebel or try to break rules, speak.
Yes, the people
or-
that try to talk, you try to say something, try to question her authority, you want to leave. Poison is your best friend.
That is crazy.
Ahanyuma y'ebiro bibiri bishato umuriro gutakareyire ekinuko kikaba kirye cyamani cyanyama zitarikire urukurira imigaranje aricyo kinuke cyabire cyeyingururize munuya konka yitwe abo kukimanyira tukarwaho twakimanyira abo kuburwaho kuza.
The medical examiners realized that the people that had been killed weeks before the fire, anyone who had dared to ask for their money back after the January 1st failed prophecy had been quietly lured away, murdered, and burned in secret or buried. The fire on March 17 wasn't a holy ascension. It was a massive, horrific cover-up to erase the remaining witnesses. I want us to go back in time to understand how Credonia was this cruel. You know, it was said that when she was young, she had this crazy obsession with fire. She would burn down things whenever she got angry. Credonia was surprisingly brought up in a Catholic home and she was a nun. But because of her rebellious nature, she was forced out of the church. It was accounted that she married 5 times and all her ex-husbands had something interesting to say about her. She wanted things done her way. She longed for power and she wanted things done immediately. And whenever things do not go her way, she explodes in anger.
Crazy works.
And here is the most frustrating and heartbreaking part of the entire tragedy.
Wait, there's more?
Yes.
The burning wasn't the most frustrating? That is crazy.
The 2 people who orchestrated this entire thing, which is Credonia Mwerinde and Joseph Kibwetere, their bodies were never positively identified in the ashes because of the extreme heat of the fire. Dental records and DNA were nearly impossible to verify at the time. Some intelligence reports suggest that Credonia was seen fleeing the compound in a vehicle just hours before the explosion, carrying suitcases full of cult's money. To this day, it remains a mystery whether they perished in their own inferno or if they managed to escape and live out the rest of their lives on the stolen life savings of the people they murdered.
That is insane. So they took their people's money and burned them so that they don't come and then
come asking for questions, come questioning the authority once again,
ask for their money,
reporting them to the police and all of that. You kill them all and then you flee with the money.
That's insane.
That's heartless. The Kanungu massacre reminds us of the terrifying power of psychological manipulation and the innocent lives lost to wolves in sheep clothing. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.